The Quran ayah that we're looking at here is very interesting because the way Allah is describing is like it's like the disbelievers are in a huge rush. Like, you know, when you're in a rush, it says headlong, right? Like when you're in such a rush where your head is far forward, right? And the sad thing is that they are in a rush to basically mock the Prophet ﷺ, right? And it's like Allah saying like, what's going to be the kind of result of that kind of thing?
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to our next episode of Quranic Transformation. Once again with Mohammed Arshad. He has been taking a good break. You guys have been seeing a lot of different guests in the meantime, but welcome back, Mohammed. How are you doing?
Jazakallah khair. Alhamdulillah, I'm good. Glad to be back.
Okay, alhamdulillah. So we are going to start with verse number 36 of Surah Al Ma'arij, which is chapter number 70. The last episodes we have been talking about some of the good qualities that leads us to have enjoyment in paradise. Today we'll be seeing about some of the negative qualities that we definitely want to avoid. So with that, let's get started. فما للذين كفروا قبلك مهطعين عن اليمين وعن الشمال عزين أيطمع كل امرئ منهم أن يدخل جنة نعيم كلا إنا خلقناهم مما يعلمون فلا أقسم برب المشارق والمغارب إنا لقادرون على أن نبدل خيرا منهم وما نحن بمسبوقين فذرهم يخوضوا ويلعبوا حتى يلاقوا يومهم الذي يوعدون يوم يخرجون من الأجداث سراعا كأنهم إلى نصب يوفضون خاشعة أبصارهم ترهقهم ذلة ذلك اليوم الذي كانوا يوعدون. Okay, so one of the first things right off the bat is the ayah is reminding us about turning away from the beneficial things, right? And that's what kind of jumps out to me is this is what's happening today. Like when it comes to content, what type of content we are consuming, and what do we do when it's beneficial content, right? So there is pure entertainment, halal entertainment, haram entertainment, and then there's like a mixture of beneficial thing versus mixed up with entertainment, what have you. So when it comes to really, really beneficial things that require deep thinking, deep work, whether it be the Islamic side of things or even from topics of the world, the question that it becomes is like, what's the content that we are consuming? Are we really going after beneficial content, or are we just like going for things that gives us excitement, pleasure, dopamine? And that's
Yeah,
obviously one of the bad qualities there.
yeah, it's very interesting because the hadith, it's like so the Quran ayah that we're looking at here is very interesting because the way Allah is describing is like it's like the disbelievers are in a huge rush. Like, you know, when you're in a rush, it says headlong, right? Like when you're in such a rush where your head is far forward, right? And the sad thing is that they are in a rush to basically mock the Prophet ﷺ, right? And it's like Allah saying like, what's going to be the kind of result of that kind of thing? And it's very like you're saying, sometimes people think, oh, we're just laughing and joking, we're just having a joke, we're just doing this, we're just doing that, and they probably saw it as a bit of a joke, but the mocking is very serious in the eyes of Allah.
Yes, and from that angle, I'd also like when we are because I think again, so when you're consuming a book or content, what have you, there's obviously people coming in with different intents, right? So some people are coming in with the intent of finding errors or finding things that they can mock about, that they can make fun of, or some people are coming to the content with the intention of I have a certain view of mine, or I want to have certain ideology, what have you. Just trying to find things that would just support my thing. You're not coming as a neutral thing, finding the guidance of Allah and submitting to it. Rather, you have your own agendas to it, right? So either you're just totally turning away from it, or you're coming back with your preconceived notions and agenda.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think the second thing that comes about is the security, right? That confidence that we are the people of Jannah, right? I think that sort of mindset that, look, we have done it, we have made it. And sometimes it could be in the subconscious, right, where we think that, okay, you know what, I'm on the right path, I got it, I have the shahada, I have the the la ilaha illallah, and I'm good to go, right? And that's something that could be really, really dangerous. And this, for us to individually think about that, do I feel that sort of security, or am I really holding my guard up and kind of moving forward towards the Jannah?
Yeah, and this is really good because it talks about the expectations, right? Like as human beings, we have these expectations, and many times in the Quran, Allah tells us that there's these people, they have these expectations that just because they were given wealth, or they were given children, or they were given something, that they think, oh yeah, Allah's favored me, right? But when
Mm,
they get to Allah in the Akhirah, that's when they'll be in shock and they'll be in disappointment, right? Because the people they used to laugh at and the people they used to mock, they are the ones who will be in Allah's mercy. They are the ones that are gonna get Allah's reward. So I think like the whole thing, especially like you see here, Allah's like swearing as well. He's like, I swear by the Lord of the points of the sunrise and sunset, that we are truly capable of replacing them with others better than them. So this is something that we've got to remember, I think, as Muslims as well, that really like our time here is short, and any second that Allah wants to replace us, He can replace us. So it's like very, very careful in terms of the way we behave, whether it's just a joke here or a joke there. The tongue is a very powerful thing. It can lead you and others to Jannah, or it can lead you and others to Jahannam.
beautiful. Yes. So that's into the third theme here, which is about our creation, right? So where we are coming from and what can happen to us, as you mentioned,
Mm.
that like Allah is saying, okay, well, think about like how weak we were, right? So today we might feel strong, what have you, but how fragile and how weak we were
Allah.
growing up, and how weak we will become. So we may have our parents today, our grandparents who may have been really strong, or what have you, but how are they today? Right? Or
Mm.
even if you want to look at other examples like the presidents of the world or the kings of the world, like how are they close to their end? So realizing that, look, this is not something that can be that can always exist with us from our physical strength perspective, and really humbling yourself to realize that Allah is the one who gave you strength after weakness, and in general, there will be weakness after strength before we die. That's usually the normal scenario and the normal sequence there. And if Allah wanted, He can just replace it with other people, right? So
Mm.
it's not. So this is from a perspective of like when people think, oh, I'm gonna work and feed people or do something for charity, or I'm gonna go do da'wah and what have you. The point is that, look, things will happen the way that Allah wanted them to happen. The point is like what role you and I want to have in that, right? I mean, we're not
Mm.
going to stop anyone from becoming Muslim. We can become a deterrent. We can make it harder for them, or we can may become someone who is actually calling them and bringing them close to Islam. We can become a part of helping people, or we can become a part of not helping people, or just being like neutral or what have you. But things will happen. Allah will make it happen with or without us. The question is like, what do we want to do? What role do we want to play in that movie, if you will?
Yeah, absolutely.
Beautiful. So then again, it talks about the point of like, okay, well, how do you deal with other people, right? The people that may be, not listening to you, may even be criticizing, right? Your way of thinking, maybe calling you names, backward, fundamentalist, too rigid, too conservative, and what have you. Then Allah Subhanahu wa Taala says, look, these type of people will always be there, right? And then for you, it's like to leave them with a beautiful leaving. You've reminded them, but then focus yourself, right? Even if you're not able to change, again, focusing on what's in your control, right? Which is what efforts I can make, but then, leave the results to Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, leave the timeline to Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, and then when that timeline comes, then they will see what they are deserving, and Allah also describes the situation and the scenario that will happen on that day, and as we read that, we can use that to remind other people who may be totally ignorant about Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, and also to remind ourselves that I don't want to be in a situation where I'm so humbled and I'm covered with humility on that way, when people will be receiving paradise, when people will be receiving all the bounties and blessings from Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. And that is a day that Allah Subhanahu wa Taala has promised, and Allah Subhanahu wa Taala never goes back on his promise, and no one can prevent the promise of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala from happening.
Yeah, and I think there's good some really amazing subtle messaging here as well, right? In the sense that if you think about the kind of people that will mock someone else, it might be someone who has a little bit of power, or someone who is not
Mm,
afraid of mocking, right? Someone goes out and does something like burn a Quran or something terrible like that, right? They're usually not afraid of the consequences, or maybe they see themselves in a state of power or position of power or a place of safety, right? But what this is reminding us in a very subtle way is that, look, don't let the current situation fool you. Like, they're mocking, they're doing this stuff. Let them do it. Let them do it, because if they continue and they die upon this, there's going to be a time when they're going to come out and it's going to be a very, very different situation. Like, you can imagine how people are when they're mocking someone, they're taking the mic, they're laughing, they're joking, they're, moving around. And then you look at what Allah's describing here. He's saying their eyes are going to be down, right? And they're going to be
Mhm.
covered with disgrace. That's like the opposite of someone being in that happy, jolly, mocking kind of place, right? And then it's like, this is the thing that they were basically mocking. The thing that they were mocking has ultimately become their destruction at the end of it all. So there's a lot of messaging here for us as believers to remember that don't let the current situation fool you. Sometimes we can watch the news, we can see situations, we can start feeling really down and bad and this and that. This is the dunya. This is the nature of the dunya. This is how things are going to be here. But the true view is going to be based upon the akhirah. And that's why, as Muslims, we have to have that long-term view where we are seeing things not just in the present life, but we see it in the longer life. And that's when we will know who the winners are and who the losers are.
Yes, beautiful, right? Yeah, so let's not be deceived by their status, by the amount of loud noise that they're making or the fun that they seem to be having, but to have that sort of focus and humility, and first of all focusing on ourselves, and then also just consoling from Allah Subhanahu wa Taala that these people will be dealt with, right, regardless of how they feel today. Beautiful. Okay, well, that inshallah will wrap up this episode, and then we'll see you in the next one. Assalamu alaikum.